Welcome to a community tourism podcast with Senscott and the Social Enterprise Academy. I'm joined here today by David Bryan from the Social Enterprise Academy to have a chat about the work that they've been doing around community-led tourism.
Hi David, thank you for joining me today.
Many thanks, Sarah. It's always good to speak.
So we have been working together for a number of years, and the Social Enterprise Academy and Senscott obviously have a close working relationship and have done lots of different pieces of work over the years. But the reason that I've asked you along today really is that over the last few years, the community tourism work that we've been doing and that you've been doing has overlapped quite a bit, and we've obviously had lots of conversations around this subject. And I think that the knowledge and information and the experience you have of working with communities, I think, is really important to this conversation. So I'm going to start, first of all, I'll let you kind of explain where it is that you are at the moment with the community tourism, but I just wanted to highlight the work that you've been doing around your leadership programme that was part of the contract with Highlands and Islands Enterprise and the South of Scotland Enterprise as well.
Yes, that's right. We've always worked, well, certainly for the last decade, we've worked with communities who've been actively involved in tourism, but it's been on a sort of one-to-one basis. And what this work has allowed us to do is to bring together a number of social enterprises that are representing their communities to really think a little bit more strategically on a destination scale. And that's been really, really interesting, really exciting. We're competing in the tourism marketplace with literally it's a global marketplace, and visitors don't perceive individual communities, individual islands or towns or peninsulas or parishes or whatever. They perceive destinations much wider than that, like the Northwest Highlands or like Dumfries and Galloway or the Borders or whatever it might be. So really what we've been doing is bringing together community leaders interested and active in tourism and developing leadership skills, really with a view to them stepping up as leaders in the tourism space, getting out of their usual arena, which is very much enterprise and community development, and actually thinking about the future of tourism in their areas, which has been really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just explain how the programme worked then. How did you bring in the right people? Did people bid into the process or?
That's right. We've had 3 cohorts, each of 15 people who, as I say, they're all leaders in their communities. They've taken enterprising approaches. They've got some involvement with tourism. They might be running a bunkhouse, or they might have some sort of area promotional campaign underway, or they've got some role in tourism. And we look to get a good geographical spread. The programme's been operating across the south of Scotland as well as the Highlands and Islands. And we're really looking at people who are able to and ready to step up as leaders, and actually to think beyond their immediate communities. And that's a little bit different. We're not necessarily always used to doing that. So that was the approach. We were oversubscribed for all 3 cohorts, but yeah, we ultimately were engaged with, I think, 46 folks, which was superb, and actually 44 of the 46 completed a 12-day program, which, given that it happened during the height of COVID, was great. It was fantastic to have their commitment.
Yeah, and I think you've highlighted something important for me there, that we obviously live in the world of social enterprise. We live in the third sector, but when we talk community tourism, we really are talking about everybody. Everybody is part of the community, and the private sector are very much part of that as well. So I think that's a really important point to get across, that this is inclusive. It's not kind of separating folk out.
That's right. A key part of the programme quite early on was stakeholder mapping, to think about who are the players. Tourism ultimately is delivered by a series of private enterprises. Some of those are socially focused, others are private businesses, but many of the private businesses are operating with a clear view to the what's best for the communities. But then there are multinational corporates who are operating in many different environments. So it's a really complex situation. There's also public sector players as well. local authorities have a key role to play in national parks in some areas and so on. So, yeah, understanding the landscape, putting your head up, the old submarine thing about periscope, if you like, was a really important element of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm interested as well for us to have a little chat about the strategic angle around that, because part of that leadership role is also obviously developing that strategic outlook. And I think that what we saw in the development of the new tourism strategy is that community is very much at the heart of it. And I think that we have a fantastic opportunity here as COVID restrictions start to lift and what have you. I think we have an opportunity to really get community at the heart of tourism in Scotland, and maybe I think it's maybe a shift away from the traditional tourism, a look at slow tourism in a different way. And what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, it's been absolutely fascinating doing these programs. We've talked to people, we've had speakers from all over the world, many of whom are our partners or our learners in other countries, and they've all give us exactly the same message, which is that tourism is changing. The old tourism is dead. And what I mean by that is it was characterized by tourism strategies in Copenhagen and in Flanders, and now the Scottish strategy, which says that actually we want a different form of tourism. We want a form of tourism which is led by communities, in which visitors stay longer, they tread more lightly, they get more authentic visitor experiences, they become temporary locals. So as soon as you start changing this round, and of course COVID has just accentuated that, because people want to be somewhere where they can stay longer in the one place. They don't want to be going to a different city every night. They want to feel safe and secure, but they want stuff to do when they're in a certain place. And they do want to find out, they're intrigued about people in rural areas. The number of times I'm asked, what do people do here? What jobs do they do? What are their lives like? Where do they go to school? Where do they shop? All these sorts of things, quite apart from their culture and the music and crafts and all this sort of thing. So what we've been seeing across the world is that tourism's changing. The old tourism's dead. This was happening before COVID, and it's certainly been accelerated by COVID. And as you say, the Scottish strategy has reflected that. Communities are mentioned in the Scottish strategy really for the first time. So that's both a great opportunity and a great challenge. And it, as I said earlier, it does require community leaders to step up as leaders, not just for their individual communities, but actually for their wider destinations. So it's a really exciting time to be involved in tourism. Yeah,
and you mentioned there, across the world this is changing, and I know that you brought in international partners into the program. Did you find that the conversations were resonating?
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember one of our learners, I think she was in Shetland, and she said that we're having our webinars on a Thursday night. So that every Thursday night I've been transported to a different part of the world, and I've been inspired and amazed by the work that's going on. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. It really was astounding. We had speakers from every continent, literally, and they were all saying the same thing, whether it was Kalahari San, how they engaged with tourists. They talked about that they wanted to both learn something from tourists and share some learning with tourists, or whether it was looking at Nova Scotia, where they share a Gaelic heritage, and they've got their Celtic Colours Festival, and how successful that's been. 60 communities working together to share their heritage and culture. Or in fact, in places like Indonesia and Malaysia, where we've got really small social enterprises that are working with communities to enable local people to provide tours, to open their homes. We had that with the Cape Townships in South Africa as well, work that's enabling people to take part in Airbnb experiences. You can go on holiday to South Africa, you can stay in a 5-star hotel, but maybe one night of your holiday you can stay in a Cape Township and really understand what it is to live in those places. So these kind of authentic visitor experiences just resonated, and I was completely blown away. Just doing some of these webinars, watching the recordings, I was just blown away that the same messaging was happening right across the world, and it does make you feel. It made me feel two things. One, the world's a very small place these days. but also that we need to really jump onto this idea of authentic visitor experiences. Otherwise, our tourism product will be left behind if we're not careful.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And I think that really we have an opportunity here to be a world leader around community-led tourism and accessible tourism as well. I think that there's a space there for Scotland to really...
We absolutely do. We've got a fantastic tourism product. We've got amazing, natural environment. We've got fantastic food and drink. Our culture, history, and heritage is superb. But I think, and this is just a personal view, but I think too often we've sort of simplified that into sort of Edinburgh Castle, Loch Ness Monster, view of the Coolin Ridge, that sort of thing. But actually, the culture and history and heritage of Scotland is so diverse and so interesting. Once you get into the Highlands, every twist of the riverbank, every lump in a field, every hillside has got a myth, or it's got a monster, or it's got a story attached to it. Gaelic place names tell you so much about the landscape and how people perceive it. And obviously, food and drink is so localized in Scotland. There's a great story to tell, but at the moment, I don't think visitors are very often really having an opportunity to sort of immerse themselves in that. And that's what the new tourism is all about. It's about communities opening up and saying, yeah, spend time with us. We'll tell you, culture is how people make sense of the world, how they understand the world. And that's all it is. And I think everybody has got a role to play in tourism, because everyone everyone's got their own view of the world. And that's all we're saying is open up to visitors and give them a really authentic experience of what your place is like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm interested to know your thoughts around what communities need to make this happen resource-wise, so whether it be financial support, what have you.
Communities need to be taken seriously. They need to be involved in the conversation as equal partners. Tourism really needs to happen with the permission of communities. Communities are the raw material for tourism. Any other industry, the owner of the raw material, if you like, the owner of the IP, if you want to put it that way, would be front and center in any discussions on planning. And thankfully, that's now the case. Communities have got a seat at the table. But I think what we see our role is enabling communities to have that understanding, to understand the tourism industry, to understand how it works, the importance of data, the importance of USPs and points of difference, of brands, of this notion of destination. So I think we're trying to bring kind of community leaders who are fantastic in what they do within the communities, kind of up to speed and start to think a bit more strategically, I suppose, about their role in delivering a great product that, as I say, is going to compete in a global marketplace.
Yeah.
So I think there's absolutely a need, and Scottish Enterprise have recognised this, and they're investing a great deal in leadership skills. And I think that's absolutely right, because ultimately, any industry succeeds or fails because of the quality of leadership. And as I say, what we're trying to do is give communities a seat at the table, but enable them to have a proper understanding of the wider industry, which is a very complex thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really, as I said at the beginning, I really feel that we're coming from the same place on this. Obviously, our project, although we're kind of working quite intensely in those two communities, is very much of that proof of concept, and it's very much around building exactly what you've been talking about, that environment for communities to be able to take this forward. And I think that I hope that you'll join us for our session with Ivan McKee, the new Minister for Tourism, because I think this is an opportunity to really put some asks forward on behalf of communities.
It's absolutely fantastic that at Scottish Government level that ministers are open to sort of recognising the role that communities have got to play, and not just saying that, you've got to consult with communities, but actually saying that the Scottish tourism resource is communities. That's why people come to Scotland. It's because of place. Yes, it's because of landscape, but landscape reflects culture. It reflects place. The same with music and food and drink and all the other things that attract people to a location. So it's absolutely superb that the Scottish Government is recognising this. Can't really underestimate how important it is, that tourism strategy with community as key players, key partners, not only sort of meeting the needs of the tourism market, but actually, and this is the other thing I should really say, is that, what we've been encouraging communities to do is to think, well, what do you want to get out of tourism? What do you want tourism to do for you? And how can we create a sort of form of tourism that's going to mitigate some of the challenges that we're all aware of, which might be about infrastructure, it might be about housing or seasonality of job. How can we create a sort of tourism that meets your needs, mitigates the challenges, and really creates a better future for your community? And it's absolutely right that government should be leading that, of course, because that's their role. So it's an exciting time. That's maybe the best way to phrase it.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of feels like we're part of a movement at the moment, doesn't it? Feels like
it does. And communities have been doing superb things in the tourism space really for a long time. Some of the the very best tourism products. I think of Callanish Visitor Centre, the Stone Circle over in Lewis. It's a fantastic place, brilliant building, recently expanded because it was so popular and so successful, and really up in the sort of level of product that we're offering. And there are lots more examples like that from community-owned leisure centres through to some of the really best quality visitor accommodation, from bunkhouses to lodges, just all sorts of in all sorts of ways communities have been leading on this. And now, through your work and our work, we're really helping them to come together and just think a little bit more strategically. And as I say, have a seat at the table and really be able to contribute to those sorts of discussions, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next for you guys then?
Well, the work goes on. We're looking to offer more of these programs. We've also got a program that we're running, a bit of an offshoot from our work in Scotland. We're bringing together Gaelic speakers in Scotland and Gaelic speakers in Ireland to share their understanding of cultural tourism and how it can be made to work for them. And certainly in both places, both countries, there's a concern for the future of the language. There's also a realization, a recognition that the language is one reason why people, go on holiday in those places. So we're offering this program called Gaels and Gales Leading in Cultural Tourism. That's going to be in the autumn. So that's going to be really interesting and exciting. Our international partners across the world are showing a lot of interest in this program. We've already had a conversation with social enterprises in Hong Kong that are active in tourism, and in places like Egypt in particular. They've been scratching their head about the future of tourism for quite a while now. So we're looking to roll this work out. It's just the start of the journey for us. Tourism is just so important to communities in Scotland, but increasingly globally. And what's important to communities is important to social enterprise. So yeah, I think it's going to be a key part of our work going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll be really interested to hear how that programme goes. And I know that our conversations are not finished, that we'll be speaking to each other lots about this over the coming months and years, and keeping in contact. But thank you very much for today. That was really, really interesting to hear about how things are progressing and your experience as well.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. It's always good to talk, Sarah, and it's always great to work with Scott as well. And I think, just as ever, the things that we do together are a lot more powerful and impactful than the things we do individually.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Bye now.
Cheers. Bye-bye.